The sharp right-hander, just before the town of Herten in Germany's Eifel Mountains, approaches faster than you think. It's a tricky corner, almost 160 degrees in radius, switching back on itself before opening out into a long, straight stretch of road flanked by the forests and fields Germany does so well. It's postcard-perfect scenery, with food-framed houses and castle ruins liberally sprinkling the scenery. And on this sunny Saturday afternoon, the road ahead is empty. Quiet, serene, until I open up the pipes and the 6.0-liter AMG engine under the bonnet barks and snarls into life, propelling me forward faster than I probably ought to be. But this is Germany, and the road ahead is clear, and in behind the wheel of a Mercedes museum piece, the Mercedes 300 CE 6.0 AMG, lovingly and iconically nicknamed the Hammer. To understand how special this car is, how rare, think about this: just a dozen cars were ever built. Think about that. 12 cars, 12, and my hosts at Mercedes-Benz have literally just tossed me the key, a smartphone with a pre-programmed road loop plugged into its sat-nav function, and said see you in a couple of hours. No minders, no chaperone, nothing. Just me and a museum piece and a stretch of scenic German countryside that invites, begs even, to be driven. And a tacit agreement to not turn the global car count for this model into 11. The Eifel Mountains are, of course, famous for one particular 24-kilometer stretch of road that has tested and challenged and sometimes killed motoring enthusiasts and racers alike for 90 years now. The Nürburgring Nordschleife needs little introduction. In its full glory, incorporating the modern-era Grand Prix circuit, the Green Hell, as it is now known after three-time F1 world champion Jackie Stewart dubbed it thus in 1968, takes in over 24 kilometers and around 170 corners of German countryside in the Eifel Mountains. Located in the Rhineland-Palatinate region of western Germany, close to the border of Belgium and Luxembourg, the Eifel Mountains are considered a low mountain range, but that does not detract from the spectacular surroundings and countryside. The Nordschleife itself climbs from a low point at Breitscheid at 320 meters above sea level to a zenith of 618 meters at Hoheacht. It is, in short, an undulating track that provides a hint at the terrain of the area around the ring itself. And it's those roads that are now beckoning to me with their twists and turns, verdant dips and climbs. With 200,000 people packed into the region for the Nürburgring 24-hour race, the roads are surprisingly quiet. But the roadsides around the track are lined with people, hordes of race fans with petrol in the veins and an eye for classic metal. So when the Hammer thunders past like a Norse god on crack, there's plenty of head-turning and finger-pointing. Smartphones are wielded like weapons in an effort to capture the moment a true automotive rarity rolls by, pistons pumping, exhaust thundering. The Mercedes 300 CE 6.0 AMG is no thing of beauty. There's nothing elegant about its boxy, pumped-up lines, and there's little symphony under the bonnet. It's a blunt instrument, bludgeoning supercar-like performance from its heavily tuned and fettled 6.0-liter V8, which had astonishing power outputs for its time. Try 287 kilowatts and a staggering 566 newton-meters. That helped propel the low-slung, wide-bodied coupe to a top speed in excess of 300 kilometers per hour, no mean feat for the 1980s. In fact, such was the Hammer's performance credentials, it competed with the likes of Ferrari's Testarossa, the outrageous Lamborghini Countach, and Porsche's classic 911 Turbo, all in a car that would barely turn heads if it rumbled by you on the street. It was, in every sense, a true sleeper. One area it couldn't compete with its more exotic rivals was on price. In the United States in 1988, a new Ferrari Testarossa would set you back $134,000. You could drive out of a Lambo dealer with a brand new Countach having handed over $100,000, while a Porsche 911 Turbo was a relatively cheap $68,070. A fully spec'd Hammer, on the other hand, rolled out of the Eifel tobacco workshop for a gobsmacking $167,000, give or take a few greenbacks, some $115,000 more than standard the Mercedes-Benz 300 CE it is based on, which could be yours for $52,500. But you got a lot of kit, and a lot of mumbo for your extra coin. For starters, AMG bought out and blueprinted the donor M117 V8 Mercedes 5.6-litre V8 to 6.0 litres, adding DOHC cylinder heads with 4 valves per cylinder. The new engine was then mated to a beefed-up 4-speed automatic transmission. The Fettlers also beefed up the rear differential, adding a Glisson Torse and LSD. To cope with the monstrous amount of torque being sent to the rear wheels, the rear subframe received some strengthening while the rest of the chassis also underwent the surgeon's knife. That distinct and wide-body styling didn't come cheap, nor did the more aggressive, lowered and upgraded AMG suspension. Sitting on 17-inch alloy wheels with 2,154,517 front and 2,354,517 rear Pirelli P700 tires completed the picture. The interior received a mild makeover too, but not so much you'd notice straight away. Sure, there are the Recaro sports seats, but they exhibit the hallmark Mercedes levels of comfort, trimmed in leather. Lashings of wood trim add to the luxury. The only obvious signs of AMG inside are the branded steering wheel and the speedometer dial, which displays the AMG logo writ large and, tantalizingly, a maximum speed of 340 km/h. Interestingly, the Hammer was born in a time before any official Mercedes-Benz involvement. As such, no Mercedes branding appeared on the car anywhere. Devoid of all three-pointed star logos, the only clue to its skunkwork origins is an embossed AMG logo on the lip of the boot. It's barely noticeable, but it's a subtle nod to those in the know. Sleeper. So what's it like to drive well? Despite its fear-inspiring moniker, the Hammer is a surprisingly subtle beast. It's also showing its age. Not as raucous at idle as I expected, that glorious 6.0-litre V8 does eventually come into its own higher in the rev band. The suspension, too, is subtle, nowhere near as firm as those in its modern counterpart, the Mercedes-Benz E63. It's surprisingly supple over the broads of the Eifel Mountains. I now find myself on more Autobahn cruiser than corner carver. The steering is best described as vague. It is an almost 30-year-old car, so well forgive it a bit of dementia. Acceleration isn't manic, nor is it loud, but once you're hammering through the German countryside, there is certain musicality to the thrum and hum of the 6.0-litre V8. Where the Hammer truly shines is in mid-range acceleration. From 80,120, it gobbles up km/h in the blink of an eye, sucking down oxygen and converting it to torque with ease and noise. This is where the Hammer is in its element, swallowing up tarmac while cosseting you in comfort. It's a reminder of why this car made such an impact in its day, why this car made Mercedes-Benz sit up and take notice of the tuning house from Eifel to back. It's no coincidence that by 1990, tuned and accessorized cars were available for the first time from Mercedes dealerships, and that by the middle of the decade, AMG was developing cars for Mercedes-Benz. Think the original C36. In 1999, of course, Mercedes-Benz acquired a controlling interest in the AMG and formed what we know today as Mercedes-Benz, bestowing ubiquity to that three-lettered acronym across the entire three-pointed star range. And this menacing, hulking, snarling brute of a car started it all. I drove a handful of other classic AMG metal over the course of the day and over the same roads, from the sprightly AMG 190e 3.2 frightening, and not in a good way, CLK 63 Black Series fearsome, but in a good way, SLS Black refined, and SL 65 Black Series brutal. But none proved as thrilling, as sonorous, as grin-inducing, as bludgeoning, and as historic as the Hammer. And yes, after my time behind the wheel, there are still 12 examples left. More everything Mercedes-Benz.